Well, in our top story this afternoon, the SABC board has dismissed and rejected reports by the Sunday Times newspaper that the national broadcaster wants to use the services of the State Security Agency to spy on its staff. In a statement released by the public broadcaster on Sunday, it says such reports are false and raise concerns now over the use of confidential board minutes to sensationalize and deliberately distort information. The statement goes even further to say that the SABC, as a public service broadcaster, fully champions the rights to freedom of expression and the right to privacy for all of its employees. The Sunday paper had reported that the SABC board wanted to spy on its staff and proposed that the process includes the vetting and monitoring of staff members. Well, for more on the story, we're now joined in studio by SABC board chairperson, that's Mr. Bongumusa Makhathini. Good afternoon, sir, and thank you so much for joining us on the desk this afternoon.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to our viewers at home.
All right, now there's still a great deal of confusion around this special meeting that supposedly took place, and the Major Weekly is saying that it was decided at this meeting to engage the services of the State Security Agency. The national broadcaster went ahead today to refute such claims, and it's at this point that it becomes really murky. Mr. Makhathini, can you just lend some clarity to the entire situation at this point?
Thank you for providing us an opportunity to explain. As the SABC, we, like any other company in the country, we have to protect our confidential information. We're a business. We've got commercially sensitive information. We are a national key point on top of that. So we cannot allow a situation where our information, which is sensitive and confidential, get disclosed to third parties. So as the board, we had a meeting. We discussed the issue, and what we resolved to do as a board was to approach the state security to help us explore other methods for us to be able to protect confidential information. There was no decision taken to spy on our people. That we'll never do. We respect the constitution of the country, and as the SABC, we cannot do things that are outside of the law. There is no decision, and that's why we're saying the headline by Sunday Times is misleading.
All right. The Sunday Times has in the past been accused by the national broadcaster of misrepresentation of fact. What do you think is their motivation? Is there some kind of agenda at play here?
Like I say, we are a business, so they are competitors. One of the things that the executives raised with the board was that every time we have a negative headline, part of the impact of that is that our revenue tend to go elsewhere. Because when there is negativity and there is this lie being peddled out there that SABC is unstable, and there is chaos at the SABC. What it does, it benefits those who are competing with us, and will not accept that. And that's why as a board, we have a responsibility and a duty to protect our information and make sure that we do what is right and what is responsible, but respecting the constitution. But on top of that, we've also got a legal opinion that basically excludes and protect our journalists. Our journalists will not be subjected to any form of vetting. But at the end of the day, you have people who work in the procurement space. Are you telling me that it's okay for us to have people who join the SABC without proper vetting? What if they've got criminal record? What if they don't have proper qualifications? How are we going to find that if we don't subject people to vetting? It could be any other private security company. If maybe there's a problem with the state security, we could have gone to a private security company to do the vetting because it is the right thing to do. But protecting our information, because some of the information is commercially sensitive. While we're working on strategies on how to generate more revenue, our strategies are being shown and shared with third parties. That's not right. We have to do what is right.
All right. You do admit at this point you are engaging with the State Security Agency, but have you ever discussed the vetting of journalists with them and measures toward that end? Because we both know that this will never stand up to constitutional scrutiny.
The truth of the matter, we haven't even had a meeting with the State Security. All we've resolved as a board, the board resolved two things. I'm mandated as chairperson to engage with the state security to help us explore other methods to protect our confidential information. So they could advise us, maybe for an example, how do we protect our document? That meeting has not taken place.
So you haven't had have engaged with the State Security Agency?
We haven't had a meeting with them.
But so that meeting is on the cards?
We've requested a meeting,
yes,
but that meeting is for them to advise us. They are experts, and we are a national key point. They're going to advise us, say, for an example, how do we protect our board packs? All right? How do we make sure that our information is classified in a manner that protects what is sensitive? So that meeting has not happened. So for the Sunday Times to go out and say we've taken a decision as a board to spy on our people, that's misleading. And it is false, and we won't accept it.
But one can understand, I mean, the worry around this kind of development is understandable. This kind of thing has happened at the national broadcaster before, perhaps not during your tenure, but in 2015 and 2017, there were reports of employee phones being tapped. And then, if I recall correctly, in 2015, there were National Intelligence Agency operatives busy in the Durban offices as well. Employees were troubled and worried about that. At the end of the day, the SABC is not a law enforcement agency. It's a place of work. And for SSA agencies to have free rein, well, it's unacceptable. What assurances that can you give staff at this point that we're not going down the same route again?
All I can say to South Africans and our staff members is that as a board, we are a responsible board. We respect the laws of this country and will never do anything that will compromise our relationship and the trust between the board and our employees. But what needs to be acceptable and to be understood is that as a company, we cannot allow our confidential information to be disclosed to third parties, which at the end of the day affect us. I mean, it affects our bottom line. Because every time when there's a negative story, guess what happened? People don't pay their TV licenses.
Yes.
All right? When our confidential, commercial, sensitive information is shared, before we implement some of these strategies, our competitors have already implemented those. So at the end of the day, we are a responsible board. I mean, people may have seen, I mean, we've done a lot to bring back governance, to deal with legacy issues. And we cannot be the same people doing what used to be done in the past while we're correcting these legacy and governance issues.
All right. You're not happy with how the Sunday Times handled this story. As a board, what action are you going to take against this particular print media going forward? From a legal perspective.
Certainly, we're not going to allow Sunday Times and any other media house to ruin the reputation of this company. All right? We'll take the necessary steps as a board to protect the reputation of the SABC and to hold them accountable. They can't just issue statements and headlines that are misleading. We're not going to accept it, and we'll fight it.
All right. The minutes of the board meeting that were leaked earlier on this year, what plans are there to ensure right now that such crucial information is not leaked into the wrong hands, so to speak, ever again?
Okay. The reason why the board discussed the matter is because we needed to get input and advice from experts. One of the experts is the state security, because we're a national key point. We're going to be meeting with them. But we're also working on a plan to implement a system that will make sure that board packs are protected, that they cannot be printed anywhere, they cannot be forwarded. So there is a number of other initiatives that the company is implementing. But of course, we need to explore to get other expert input that can help us come up with new methods and close all the loopholes that may exist. That we cannot leave unattended. We have to tackle it, we have to resolve it, we have to protect our information.
These loopholes that you're speaking about, Mr. Makhathini, some people, or there are some out there who argue that these loopholes are actually the troublemakers or the whistleblowers in the organization, or who want to expose maybe wasteful expenditure and reuse of resources.
There's a difference between a whistleblower, somebody who raises concerns because there's criminality and corruption. That must continue to happen.
All right.
But we're not going to accept a situation where people disclose confidential, sensitive information of a company. I don't get to hear what's happening in the board of Sunday Times. Why is it okay for my board discussions, which are sensitive and confidential, to be known out there? And we understand our role as the SABC, and we'll never compromise our role, and whatever we'll do it within the law. But whistleblowers, they must continue exposing corruption, and they are protected. So disclosing sensitive information is not the same as whistleblowing.
Mr. Bongumusa Makhathini, thank you so much for your time on the SABC News Desk.